Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Thank you everybody that's listening to us on our flagship show. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J on Legacy Internet Radio. Thanks for those folks that pulled up, tune in, as well as those folks that are listening to the replays on YouTube. It's because of you guys. The reason why we continue doing this show week after week on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Legacy Internet Radio. I told you guys I had a special interview and a very, very special guest on the live line with us right now, and it's time for that interview. I am very happy and honored to introduce to you guys my radio mentor. He is known as the #1 truth fighter. He is attorney Warren Ballentine. What's up, brother?
What's going on, Marcus J?
Hey, man. I'm doing well, man. I'm glad to have you on the show, man. You doing good today?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to see you doing your thing, too. People need it.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. Well, first of all, I know your time is limited, so I won't hold you up. I just want to introduce my listeners to you. As I mentioned to you before, I mentioned Warren Ballentine a lot. I want these folks to know why I look up to you and why they should be listening to you. So first thing I want you to do, you made your return to the airwaves just this week, last week actually. So why don't you tell everybody where they can hear your show? Let's start there.
Well, you can listen to the show on Empowerment Radio Network. You Google that, it'll come up. You also can listen through Seattle and Portland and Raleigh and some other cities, but the TuneIn app is the easiest way to do it through Empowerment Radio Network every day, Monday through Friday, 10 to 1. And, of course, we talk politics and black empowerment. That's what we do. That's what we deal with.
You got it. Now, you refer to yourself as the #1 truth fighter, and those folks who listen to you and support you are known as truth fighters, of which I am one. Why don't you tell the Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J listeners, what is a truth fighter? Where did that phrase come from? How did that become part of your rhetoric?
Well, a truth fighter is just somebody who's out here who's willing to fight for the truth and willing to tell the truth, even if it's something that they're uncomfortable with. But if it's honest and it's 100, then we got to tell it. You know, I tell people all the time I'm the ugliest man in radio, not because of my physical looks, but because I'm telling you the truth, whether you want it or not. Sometimes it's ugly. It's the truth. And so the truth fighters came into existence because when I first got syndicated in 2007 through Radio 1, I had a meeting with Alfred Liggins and Kathy Hughes, and they were concerned about me taking over the show because they was like, well, you're so young, how do you know, black history, politics, and all this other stuff? And basically I just told them, I said, I'm somebody who believes in the truth. I believe in fighting for the truth. And so what I do is I do the research, and then I talk. I said, I'm just not out here running my mouth. Right. I'm going to actually take the time to study what I'm going to be talking about. And so Ms. Hughes kind of jokingly said, well, so you're going to fight for the truth, huh? I said, yeah, I'm a truth fighter. And she started laughing. And after she started laughing, I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to call my listeners, truth fighters, because if we're out here fighting for the truth, that's what we are. We're truth fighters. Right. So that's how the name came into existence.
Man, it was that simple, huh?
It really was. I mean, it wasn't no deep, thought-out stuff. It was just a conversation, and she just kind of chuckled at me and said, so you fighting for the truth? And I said, yeah, I'm a truth fighter. Right. And then she started laughing. I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to call my listeners, because I want people who are going to be telling the truth. When they call in, they've looked at stuff, they researched stuff, and they can empower the audience, not just me, right, but the listeners. The one thing I love about my show is the listeners who listen call in and get to empower everybody else that's listening. So it's a give and take on the show, and that's why I really enjoy doing radio.
No, I appreciate it. Now, you from Chicago. Tell us about the Chi. Tell us how you became an attorney. What was in your mind when you said, you know what, I'm going to be a lawyer? How did that happen?
Oh, man, that was the first thing from my mind, man. I grew up in Inglewood in Chicago and in the projects, and that'll be well. So, I mean, that was the first thing from my mind, to be honest with you, man. I went to school in Inglewood, one of the roughest areas in America, not just Chicago. And honestly, I had no aspirations to be a lawyer. I got arrested, and I was in the car with three of my friends. They had guns in the car. I didn't know the guns were in there. I was actually asleep in the car because I had been drinking, and I didn't want to drink and drive. And so we got pulled over. The cops ran everybody's record, saw that I had a clean record. And so they put all three guns on me. At the time, I was 19. I was playing football, and I was in college. And I was on a scholarship, and, I lost my scholarship and, everything. And so I had an attorney named Attorney Johnson who took my case, and it probably was at the time, realistically, it should have been about a $4,500 to $5,500 case. He did the case for $500, and basically, at the end of the case, the judge apologized to me, because they told my friends, if y'all come in and testify that these guns were y'all's, we gonna lock y'all up. But all three of my friends came in and testified that the guns were theirs, and the judge apologized to me, and then I asked Attorney Johnson. I said, man, let me do something. Let me wash your car. Let me clean up your office. Let me do something. He said, man, do something with your life. And at that point, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go back to school and be a lawyer because I want to help people the way this dude helped me. And what's crazy is the three guys I grew up with, all of them had dropped out of high school. They was, living like the rest, everybody in my neighborhood. They was in the streets. Right. That's how they was making their money. Right. And I went to college. I went back to school. I joined a fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma, and started inviting them up to school. So when they started coming up to school and seeing how college was and seeing that it was a lot of dudes just like them, just like me, up on the college campus, then they was like, oh, man, I need to see what's going on here. So they went and got GEDs. All of them went to college. All of them got master's degrees. So, I mean, it's just amazing how the decisions sometimes you make affect everybody around you when you're doing something.
Right. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We're talking to the #1 true fighter, Warren Ballentine. Warren, I want to switch gears a little bit. Last week on Wednesday was the Republican debate on CNN, and I know you watched it. I certainly watched it. Initially, what was your first thought when you got maybe an hour in? What were you thinking? Were you thinking it was a good debate, a comedy show, or was it just that, in fact, a show?
Well, for me, it's a little bit different because I'm looking at it from a political junkie point of view. I'm not just watching it just for the entertainment. I'm watching it because I'm trying to see if they really understand what foreign affairs need to be talked about, what domestic issues need to be talked about, and things like that. So for me, it's three things that I watched all 5 hours or 6 hours of that debate.
I did too.
On that Wednesday, because it was a debate from 5 to 8, and then there was another debate from 8 to 11. Yep. So watched all the debates, the first one and the second one, and the three things that I took from the debate was just simply this: Donald Trump doesn't know enough about foreign policy, but he didn't do anything that will damage him in the polls. And the reason why is because when foreign policy came up, instead of the other candidates bringing him into the conversation, they kept him out of the conversation. Right. And so it protected him in that sense. The second thing that I got out of this debate was that the Republicans and the Democrats, we keep trying to make a difference between the two of them. It is no difference. Because when you talk about white supremacy in this country, it is no difference if it's going to be somebody white sitting in there and they don't care about what's going on in our communities. Only one person on that stage said something that was prevalent to Black America, and that was Rand Paul when he talked about the mass incarceration of these young boys and women based on drugs, on marijuana and other drugs. Right. He's the only one who addressed anything that was affecting the black issue. The third thing that I learned is that CNN, Black folks have been watching CNN, been loyal to CNN. And look, I've been on CNN many a times. In fact, at one point for about 2 years, I was on there every Sunday. But I'm going to be honest with you. We should never watch CNN again after watching that debate because CNN sat there, did 6 hours of debate, and not one time did Black Lives Matter come up. No. They did not ask one question about it. No candidate brought it up. Even if they wanted to talk about other issues, when somebody asked them about foreign affairs, if they wanted to talk about something domestic, they answered the foreign affairs question and then put the domestic issue in there. Nobody did this. And so at the end of the night, I purposely stayed up to 1 o'clock watching CNN to figure out why nobody asked any question about Black Lives Matter. Finally, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash got up there and said, look, we had a whole bunch of questions. We wanted to ask the most important questions, and we just couldn't get to Black Lives Matter. Well, I'm appalled by that because one of the questions that they thought was more important than Black Lives Matter was what nickname would you give yourself to the Secret Service if you're the president? Right. So your nickname is more important than Black Lives Matter to CNN. Yeah. That's the way I'm taking it. And because of that, you can't support a network that would think a nickname is more important than Black Lives Matter. You just can't support it.
No, you can't support it. And I'll take it even a step further as far as the candidates are concerned. You know, there are a lot of Black Republicans out there, and if they're looking at any of those candidates, you know, you got to figure if you feel being black and you feel being a Republican, none of those candidates even brought it up. You know what I mean? They didn't bring it up at all. And then when you notice that Fox
but
News
you got to look at it like this too, though, Marcus J. Most black Republicans are not going to care about Black Lives Matter because most black Republicans aren't poor. Right. Most of the Republicans who are black are very financially well off. The problem is this, though. Even if black folk keep voting just straight Democratic, the problem is the Democrats aren't doing enough for black people neither. See, the only difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, the Republicans, you know, black people, well, Republicans are racist. Well, at least you know they got their Ku Klux Klan hood on and they don't like you. The problem with Democrats is they smiling in your face. And you think they like you. Yeah. And the reality of it is when they get in the office, they don't do nothing for you.
Well, they expect your vote. Yeah.
You got to look at this for what it really is. You know, I tell people on my show all the time, the biggest mistake that we have in black America right now when it comes to politics is that we are loyal to one party. If you are loyal to one party, this is what happens. The Republicans could care less about us because they think they cannot get our vote. So they don't even try. And then the Democrats could care less about our vote because they know they're going to get our vote no matter what we do. It's just like if I go in the club and there's two women there and one is a perfect 10 and the other one is a 5, but the perfect 10 got on a 3-carat engagement ring or wedding band, guess what? By the end of the night, I'm going to be over there talking to the 5 because at least I got a chance with her. Right. And that's the same thing with voting. If you only line up to be with one political party, then that one party you line up with takes you for granted, and the other party thinks they can't get you. And thus, you get treated and pushed to the side. This is why Latinos, look, they vote Republican sometimes, they vote Democrat sometimes, and you got both parties coming after them. Women, white women, the second biggest voting bloc that they go after outside of Latinos is white women. Why? Because white women are fickle. Sometimes they'll vote Republican, sometimes they'll vote Democrat. The only group of people who vote consistently one party, the only group, Asians don't do it, whites don't do it, Latinos don't do it, the only people who do it is black folks. And the sad part about it is all these civil rights leaders are tied to the Democratic Party. Right. And I just look and shake my head because Dr. King wasn't tied to anybody. Malcolm X wasn't tied to anybody. And for us to be laying in bed with only the Democrats, it's crazy because all we're doing is getting a rah-rah speech, but at the end of the day, our communities look the same or are worse. Our schools look the same or are worse. We're getting gunned down in the street by cops, and they're getting away with it. Our legal system is faulty. They're falsely charging, accusing people. I mean, you think about everything that we got going on in our community, and Democrats are running our local cities, and we sitting up here talking about what the Republicans ain't doing for us. Yeah. What are the Democrats doing for us?
Not a thing, not a thing. And my listeners are used to hearing me call them the purple people because the red and the blue make the purple, and they all the same to me. The only difference
That's
is
right.
The only difference, like you said, Warren, is that the Democrats expect your vote. What do you think Hillary Clinton's going to do if she gets it, which I'm not sure that she will, but what do you think she's going to do? You think she's going to come to your show? You think she's going to go talk to Joe Madison? You think she's going to come on Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J on Legacy Internet Radio? Of course not, because she already assumes that she has our vote, so she ain't coming to talk to us.
Well, that's exactly what happened to her in 2008. She was so sure she was going to be the nominee. She didn't care to even reach out to black folks because she just figured, look, y'all going to vote for me anyway. Right. And then Barack came out of nowhere, and then black folks got behind him, and she was like, oh, what is going on? Well, look, I don't even think she's going to be the nominee from the Democratic Party if Joe Biden gets into the race. But that's neither here nor there. But you're right. She's not going to come on none of these shows because the Democrats, in their mind, they already got the black vote locked up.
I got two more quick questions for you, Warren, before I let you go. The first one, we talked a little bit about Black Lives Matter, but I want your opinion on white privilege because, you know, one of the things that I'm noticing quite a bit is white folk have this very strong rhetoric with regards to everybody's so sensitive, everybody's so offended, but the minute that you mention the possibility that they may benefit from white privilege, it turns around and they get offended. When you hear white privilege, what do you think about?
Man, when I hear white privilege, I think about a couple of things. First thing I think about is understanding the historical context of this. Everybody that was white was not slave owners. In fact, a lot of them was indentured servants themselves when they first came over here. In fact, if you look at it breaking down statistically, only 10% of the total white population was slave owners. And this is why you have so many white folks who think they don't have privilege. And so what you have to do is start there and say, look, we understand you may come from an ancestry that didn't actually enslave people. But let me tell you why you still got privilege because of slavery. Because literally your ancestors, even though they didn't enslave nobody, they got to go get an education. They got to own land. They got to stay married and raise families. Black folks didn't get to do none of that for over 400 years because of slavery. So when you start telling me that we didn't, my ancestors didn't do anything, so I don't have this privilege, yes, you do, because your ancestors were allowed to actually get educated and be homeowners and landowners and actually have families and not have to worry about them being separated when black folks couldn't do it during slavery time. Second thing I think about when you hear white privilege in this country is white folks don't understand that they have the same movements that we do. They just call them different things. When everybody is talking about Black Lives Matter, only Black Lives Matter, first off, Black Lives Matter, the movement, never said it was only black lives that matter. The media made it that way. That's the first thing. Second thing is the whole purpose of the Black Lives Matter movement was people got tired and felt like, you know what, our voice isn't being heard. We matter too. We're dying in the streets to the hands of police officers. We don't want to kill cops. What we want to do is have the cops work with us because our lives matter too, and we want our voices heard. Well, guess what? That's the same rhetoric that the Tea Party used when Barack Obama won the White House. We feel like ain't nobody listening to us. We want our voice heard. This is why we're organizing. This is why we're coming together, because we want our voices heard so that we will know that everybody's paying attention because we matter too. Not just black folks, not just Democrats, we matter too. That's the same rhetoric that's coming out of Black Lives Matter. But if you show that to a white folks, oh no, that's a political entity. No, it's not just a political entity. It was about white folks saying we feel like we are not getting the recognition that we need, and we want our voices to be heard. That's the same thing Black Lives Matter is. It's no different to that.
No different.
The third thing about white privilege that I think most people don't understand, it is white folks walking around here right now who don't even think they got white privilege. They don't even understand the privileges that they have. I have a white friend who I was with maybe about 2 weeks ago, and he was telling me that he couldn't be racist because he don't think he's a racist. And I said, well, just because you don't think you're racist in your mind, if you're doing racial things and somebody tells you to stop doing them and you continue to do them, you will be labeled a racist. Right. And he's like, oh, that's impossible because as long as I don't think I'm one or don't have ill feelings towards anybody, then I can't be racist. I was like, man, that's the problem. Y'all don't even understand when y'all make people feel uncomfortable that if somebody tells you this makes me feel uncomfortable and you continue to do it, that is viewed as racist. And they don't understand that.
No. I've always said on this show that the definition of white privilege is not realizing that you benefit from white privilege. So that's essentially where you just went. I appreciate your response to that. Last question, Warren. I know our time is short here. Last thing I want to ask you. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who are they and why?
Oh, man, that's good. I want to have dinner with Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And I would want to have dinner with Jesus Christ, really not from even a religious point of view. It would be about the persecution that he went through when he was on this earth and why it's being allowed to still happen to people on this earth. So that would be my question to him. The second person that I would really like to sit down and have dinner with is Marcus Garvey. And the reason I would want to have dinner with Marcus Garvey is simply for the fact that I would want to know what was his ultimate plan of creating import and export for black people in America. And if I could duplicate that plan today to make us become a nation within a nation to create a nation. Because we're already a nation within a nation with the $1.5 trillion we spend a year. But if we could harness that money and create an import and export with Africa, and then that way we can create a nation within a nation to create a nation. And then lastly, I would have dinner with my grandmother and my mother just to be able to speak to them one last time, because it's so much that I want to say to them that I didn't get to say to them before they passed. And it's really just an appreciation to let them know I want to thank them for always doing what they did to help me be who I am. And so those would be the three people I would want to have dinner with.
No, I could dig it, man. If it was me, I would say Bob Marley is my spiritual leader. I love the man, and I look forward to an opportunity to sit with him on the other side. And, of course, Malcolm and Martin, for obvious reasons. People would be shocked if they knew how close they were actually in their philosophies. I wish we had more time. We could build on that. Marcus Garvey, obviously my namesake. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the den of Legacy Internet Radio. We're speaking to the #1 Truth Fighter, Warren Ballentine. Warren, I appreciate the time that you gave. I know we went a little bit over, but I appreciate that. Lastly, before I let you go, tell the listeners once again who you are and how they can find your show.
You know what? They can find the show Monday through Friday, 10 to 1, Empowerment Radio Network. You can Google that or pull it up on the TuneIn app. You can follow me at Twitter, at Truthfighter1, at Truthfighter1. And I'll post the different cities where you can listen to it or, you know, the other things that you can listen at. And, you know, Marcus, keep doing what you're doing, man, brother. We need more people like you putting out good word, educating folks, empowering folks, because that's what it's all about right now. It's not about being a celebrity. It ain't about being a superstar. It's about uplifting us as a people, because if we're uplifted, then the nation is uplifted.
You got it. Warren, hold the line. I'm going to let you go in just a minute. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. You're listening to the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got more Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the den, Legacy Internet Radio. Be back in a few.